The most dangerous car on the road is not the one moving fastest. It is the one being paid for the slowest. Most people think the car payment trap is about overspending. That is only the surface. The real trap is deeper, quieter, and much more expensive. It is not that people buy a vehicle they cannot technically afford this month. It is that they use the next 7 or 8 years of their lives to purchase a feeling they wanted immediately, and then call that affordability because the monthly number fits. That is not affordability. That is time being sold in small pieces. I have watched people destroy more wealth through transportation than through bad stock picks, market crashes, or failed businesses, not because cars are evil, because cars are emotional, visible, socially rewarded, and very easy to finance. That combination is dynamite for the middle class. The house at least has the decency to pretend it is an asset. The car makes no such promise. It tells you exactly what it is going to do. It is going to depreciate, consume cash, demand insurance, burn fuel, require repairs, and lose status the moment a newer version rolls off the truck, and still people line up for it. Why? Because they are not buying transportation. They are buying permission to feel successful, permission to look like they are winning, permission to stop feeling behind, permission to drive an identity instead of merely commute in one. That is the real product. The monthly payment is simply the anesthetic that makes the surgery possible. The average person never sees the whole deal. The dealer makes sure of that. They do not sell you a total cost. They sell you a monthly sentence. They turn a price into a payment into a habit, and a habit into a lifestyle once that happens. The buyer stops asking the right question. The right question is not, can I make this payment? The right question is, what is this payment stealing from the future version of me? That is a much more honest question. A person can afford almost anything for a month. People can afford ridiculous things for a year if they are willing to neglect enough other areas of life. That does not mean the thing is affordable. It means the consequences have not fully arrived yet. That is how the trap works. It converts a large decision into a small recurring sensation. The small recurring sensation feels manageable. So the buyer stops thinking about the large decision. Then years pass, the vehicle ages, the excitement fades, the repairs begin. The market value falls faster than the loan balance, and the owner discovers he has not really bought a truck. He has built a private tax on his own household cash flow. I want you to picture a man signing papers for a new pickup. He tells himself he deserves it. He works hard. He needs something reliable. He wants something that can tow, haul, survive weather, and maybe, if we are being honest, make him feel a little larger when he pulls into a parking lot. The paperwork slides across the desk. The dealer does not talk about the truck the way an investor would talk about a machine. He talks about the truck the way a magician talks about misdirection. How do you want your monthly payment to feel? That is the real product design. Stretch the term, adjust the down payment, roll in the old loan, move one lever here, hide another cost there. Before long, the impossible becomes reasonable. This is one of the great modern financial tricks. A thing that is absurd in full price becomes acceptable in monthly language. The buyer hears $900 a month and thinks, that is a lot, but I can make it work. He does not hear $75,600 over 7 years before insurance. He does not hear fuel, maintenance, registration, taxes, opportunity cost, negative equity risk, and the life he is quietly refusing to build because this truck now sits on top of the budget like a small tyrant. He hears one number. That number has been designed to bypass intelligence and go straight to emotion. This is why loan terms keep stretching. Years ago, car loans were short enough that the monthly payment still had some relationship to reality. Today, reality has been cut into so many slices that people can swallow almost anything. A vehicle that would look deranged over 4 years looks respectable over 8. Nothing has improved except the anesthesia. Longer terms do not make expensive vehicles affordable. They make the pain easier to ignore. That is a big difference. If you spread a bad decision across enough months, many people mistake delay for wisdom. The body of the decision remains the same. Only the visibility changes. This is why the trap is so effective. It does not ask the buyer to be reckless. It asks him to be incremental. Just a little more per month, just a little longer, just this one feature, just this trim, just this package. Just this time, 1,000 tiny surrenders later, the household has turned its transportation budget into a hostage situation, and then the real damage starts, because the payment is never the payment. People love to isolate the loan as if that were the cost. It is not. It is the entrance fee to the cost. Once you own the expensive vehicle, the whole ecosystem around it inflates. Insurance goes up because replacement cost is high, and modern vehicles are loaded with sensors that turn minor damage into major invoices. Tires cost more, maintenance costs more, registration costs more, fuel costs more because enormous vehicles have appetites to match their posture. Repairs come with the special insult that even after paying a fortune to buy the thing, it still expects tribute to remain operable. This is what people never calculate, because calculators do not flatter desire. A truck is not $900 a month. It is $900 a month plus the rest of the machine that follows at home. And when you finally count honestly, the thing becomes grotesque. Now, I do not say that lightly. Transportation matters, reliability matters, safety matters. In many parts of the country, a car is not optional. It is infrastructure for your life. But the line between needing a car and financing an identity is one of the most expensive lines in American personal finance. And people cross it every day with smiles on their faces. The trap becomes truly poisonous when negative equity arrives. This is one of those concepts that should be taught in school with the same seriousness as reading and basic arithmetic, because it explains so much of modern middle-class financial behavior. Negative equity means you owe more than the vehicle is worth. The machine is falling in value. The debt is not falling fast enough to keep up. Now you are trapped. You cannot sell without writing a check. You cannot trade without burying the old debt inside a new loan. You are financially married to a depreciating object. This is how people become repeat customers of their own mistake. The first bad loan should have taught them caution. Instead, it teaches them technique. They learn how to roll, how to stretch, how to hide old losses inside new contracts. The auto industry loves this because it turns a transaction into a dependency cycle. The buyer is no longer shopping from strength. He is negotiating from inside a financial tunnel. Once you understand that, the whole American car culture starts looking different. That shiny vehicle on the highway is often not proof of prosperity. It is proof of commitment. Commitment to a payment, commitment to a story, commitment to being seen a certain way at a cost the driver may not even fully calculate. This is why I say so many people are not driving their cars. Their cars are driving their budget, and budgets do not hide their injuries well forever. The family that overspends on transportation has to underinvest somewhere else. That is the part nobody photographs. The canceled vacation, the retirement account contribution that stayed too low, the emergency fund that never got built, the extra stress during a repair, the salary negotiation that had no spine because the next payment was due, the person who could not leave the job they hated because the truck required obedience. That is the real price, not just dollars. Submissiveness. This is what expensive transportation does to ordinary people. It reduces their ability to say no. It reduces room. And room is one of the most valuable financial assets on earth. Room to wait, room to negotiate, room to leave, room to absorb surprises, room to invest, room to think. People sacrifice all of that for heated seats and chrome details and the brief sensation that they have finally caught up to the life they think everyone else is living. Most of those other people are financing their own delusions too. This is one of the cruel jokes of consumer culture. Everybody is renting status from each other with borrowed money, then using each other's rented status as proof that it must be normal. Nothing about it is normal. It is merely common. There is a big difference between a family that values reliable transportation and a family that has built transportation into its identity. The first family wants function at a fair cost. The second family wants emotional reassurance on wheels. The first family can make rational decisions. The second family is almost impossible to help because any suggestion of a cheaper, wiser option sounds to them like an insult. not a strategy. That is why people get strangely defensive about cars, suggest that someone is overhoused and they may debate you, suggest that someone is overcard and they will act as though you attacked their character. The automotive industry understands this perfectly. They do not sell utility. They sell self-image with utility as the excuse. The ads are not subtle about it. They show dominance, freedom, ruggedness, success, family protection, adventure, competence. They rarely show what the machine mostly does in real life, which is sit in a parking lot losing value while its owner works to afford it. That would be an honest commercial. No one wants to make honest commercials. The cruelest part is that many people who do this are not fools. They are good people making one emotional exception in a culture built to reward exactly that exception. They work hard, they want something nice. They are tired of feeling like the disciplined one who always postpones pleasure. They tell themselves this is finally their turn. And that is how decades of wealth building get traded for one loud purchase and a long, quiet recovery. I have always thought cars reveal a lot about how a person thinks about money. Not because luxury is sinful or because frugality is holy, because the car purchase forces you to answer a very difficult question. Are you more interested in being seen as wealthy or in becoming free? Those are not the same project. A person who is mainly interested in being seen will optimize the visible layer paint size, badge, newness, presence, monthly payment if necessary. A person interested in freedom will optimize the invisible layer, reliability, total cost, opportunity cost, depreciation curve, insurance drag, fuel drag, maintenance profile, loan structure, cash flow preservation. That second person usually looks less impressive in a parking lot and much more impressive on a balance sheet. This is where opportunity cost becomes the villain. Nobody wants to name. The money destroyed by the car payment trap is not only the payment itself, it is what that payment could have become. Had it been directed toward assets instead of liabilities wearing status costumes, an $800 monthly payment does not merely buy a vehicle. Over time, it competes directly against your retirement account, your emergency reserves, your investing capacity, your peace of mind, your optionality, your ability to own rather than owe. If the buyer understood that every truck payment was also a non-contribution to future freedom, the whole purchase would feel different. That is the thought process the dealership works very hard to prevent. Can you afford this each month? Is a far weaker question than, what future am I declining in order to have this object now? That is why so many people make the wrong choice. They are never asked the real question. The right car decision is often profoundly unglamorous. Buy used but not broken. Buy reliable but not vanity. Branded buy enough but not theater. Buy something whose total cost leaves room for the rest of your life to become stronger. Then keep it longer than culture thinks is respectable. That is what intelligent transportation looks like. It does not photograph well, it does compound well. This is why the person driving the old Honda may be wealthier, in the only sense that matters, than the man in the gleaming new truck. The Honda driver may have room investments, reserves, low stress, low insurance, lower fuel costs. No need to impress strangers at red lights. The truck driver may have posture and panic at the same time. Most people can identify the posture. Very few can see the panic. And panic is often the hidden passenger in these vehicles. Panic that the status might slip. Panic that the repair bill is coming. Panic that the payment is due. Panic that the job cannot be lost. Panic that the whole identity structure rests on a depreciating machine financed like a second mortgage. That is the car payment trap nobody wants to talk about. Not simply that people borrow too much, that the payment colonizes the rest of their financial life. It teaches them to accept a lower standard of freedom in exchange for a higher standard of presentation. Over time, that habit becomes a worldview. They stop asking what makes them stronger and start asking what keeps the performance going. That is how the middle class stays tired. And the answer is not to become joyless. I do not believe in money sermons that confuse discipline with punishment. Enjoy your life. Drive something you like. Use your money. But there is a difference between using money and offering it up as a sacrifice to a depreciating altar because you want the world to reflect a certain image back to you. Transportation should support your life. It should not dictate it. Once a vehicle begins shaping where you can live, what risks you can take, whether you can leave a job, whether you can invest, whether you can save, whether a repair becomes a crisis, then the vehicle is no longer serving you. You are serving it. That is servitude in a leather interior. The way out is brutally simple and emotionally difficult. Stop buying transportation with your ego. Buy it with your calculator. Think in total cost, not monthly cost. Think in freedom lost, not trim package gained. Think in years of cash flow committed, not in the emotional rush of the first week. Think in net worth, not in parking. Lot psychology. And if you are already in the trap, do not romanticize the machine. Treat it like a balance sheet problem. Run the numbers, understand the negative equity, understand the carrying costs. Decide whether this is a prison worth maintaining or a lesson worth escaping from. But do not keep telling yourself the payment is fine, just because it has not yet caused a public disaster. Quiet financial weakness is still weakness. That is the final thing I would want people to understand. A car payment can be made for years before it becomes visibly painful. That does not mean it was ever smart. It means the damage was occurring in opportunity cost, in lower savings, in smaller investments, in reduced courage, in postponed freedom, in choices never taken because the truck had to be fed first. Those invisible losses are the real trap. They are why the person with the most expensive vehicle on the block is so often not the wealthiest person, but the most aggressively financed one. And aggressive financing is not success. It is a future version of stress-wearing polished paint. The person who understands this does not need the shiniest car. He needs the strongest life. And the strongest life is one where transportation gets you where you need to go without quietly taking you away from the future you were trying to build in the first place.